The rain-slicked streets of Brooklyn gleamed under the sodium glow of streetlights, but inside Maya's heart, a storm raged fiercer than the one outside. At 22, she stood at the threshold of Lucille, a Michelin-starred restaurant that promised a future she'd clawed her way toward. Tonight was her chance, her only shot, to impress Chef Marcel Dubois, the culinary world's untouchable god, whose approval could launch her dream of becoming a chef. Maya adjusted her second-hand blazer, her pulse hammering as she stepped into the pristine dining room. Crystal chandeliers cast a soft glow over white tablecloths, and the air hummed with the clink of wine glasses and murmured French. She clutched her resume, its edges worn from countless rejections, and scanned the room for Marcel. He stood near the open kitchen, his silver hair immaculate, his presence commanding. She approached, her smile steady despite the knot in her stomach. "Chef Dubois." Her voice was clear, practiced. "I'm Maya Washington. I'm here for the sous chef interview." Marcel's eyes flicked over her, lingering on her dark skin, her tightly coiled hair pulled into a neat bun. His lips curled into something that wasn't quite a smile. "You're Maya." His French accent dripped with skepticism. "This is Lucille. We maintain a certain standard." The words hit like a slap. Maya's smile faltered, but she pressed on. "I graduated top of my class at the Culinary Institute of America. I've worked in kitchens across Brooklyn, and Brooklyn," Marcel interrupted, his voice sharp. "Street food carts and greasy diners? This is fine dining, Miss Washington. We don't need your kind here." He waved a hand dismissively, already turning away. The room seemed to shrink, the murmurs of diners growing louder in her ears. Her kind? The weight of the phrase crushed her, but she straightened her spine. "My kind built this city's food scene," she said, her voice low but firm. "You'd know that if you ever left your ivory tower." Marcel froze, his eyes narrowing. "Get out," he spat. "You'll never work in my kitchen." Maya walked out into the rain, her dreams dissolving with each step. She didn't cry, not then. She vowed to prove him wrong, to carve her own path no matter the cost. 10 years later, Maya Washington was no longer the hopeful girl in a borrowed blazer. At 32, she was a billionaire, the founder of SavorSoul, a global food empire that revolutionized how people dined. Her app connected home cooks, street vendors, and small restaurants to millions, celebrating the flavors Marcel had dismissed as lesser. From food trucks in Lagos to taco stands in Los Angeles, Maya's platform gave voices to those the culinary elite ignored. Her success was a middle finger to every door slammed in her face. But tonight, in a sleek Manhattan penthouse, Maya wasn't thinking about her empire. She stood at her floor-to-ceiling window, the city sprawling below, and felt the familiar ache of loneliness. Her wealth had built walls, high, glittering ones that kept people at a distance. She dated, sure, but no one saw past the billionaire to the woman who still dreamed of her own kitchen, her own recipes. Her phone buzzed, a text from her assistant. "Dinner at Lucille confirmed. 8 p.m. Marcel doesn't know it's you." Maya smirked. She'd bought the building Lucille sat in last month, a quiet flex of power. Tonight, she'd dine there, not as the rejected girl, but as the woman who could buy and sell Marcel's world 10 times over. She slipped into an emerald dress that hugged her curves, her confidence a shield, and headed out. At Lucille, the dining room hadn't changed. Still a shrine to exclusivity, with its starched linens and hushed reverence. Maya was seated at the chef's table, a spot reserved for VIPs. She noticed a woman across the room, her presence magnetic. She was Latina, mid-30s, with sharp cheekbones and warm brown eyes that seemed to hold 1,000 stories. Her cream blazer and easy posture screamed confidence, but there was a softness in her smile as she glanced Maya's way. Maya's heart skipped, a rare feeling. The woman approached, her stride purposeful. "Mind if I join you?" Her voice was smooth, with a faint trace of a Miami accent. "I'm Elena Rivera, food critic. I've heard interesting things about you, Maya Washington." Maya raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Good things, I hope?" Elena's smile widened. "Let's just say I'm curious about the woman who's shaking up the food world." They talked as the first course arrived. A delicate amuse-bouche that Maya barely tasted, too caught up in Elena's wit and warmth. Elena was 34, a rising star in culinary journalism, known for exposing pretension in high-end dining. She'd grown up in a Cuban-American family, her childhood filled with arroz con pollo and dreams of telling stories through food. Maya felt a spark, a connection she hadn't known she craved. Then Marcel appeared, striding toward their table, his face a mask of professional charm. "Ladies, I trust you're enjoying." His words died as he locked eyes with Maya. Recognition hit him like a freight train. His mouth opened, then closed, his composure crumbling. "Chef Du Bois," Maya said coolly, her voice velvet over steel. "It's been a while." Marcel stammered, his face paling. "Miss Washington?" Elena's eyes flicked between them, sensing the tension. "You two know each other?" "Oh, we've met," Maya said, her gaze never leaving Marcel. 10 years ago, he told me I'd never belong in his kitchen." Marcel's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. The power dynamic had flipped, and he knew it. Maya leaned forward, her voice low. "I own this building now, chef, and I'm here to enjoy your food for now." Elena's lips twitched, clearly intrigued. The night was just beginning, and Maya was ready to savor every moment. Of the meal, of Marcel's discomfort, and of the unexpected pull she felt toward Elena. The dinner unfolded like a chess game. Marcel sent out course after course, each plate a silent plea for redemption. Maya dissected every dish with a chef's precision, her critiques sharp but fair, while Elena scribbled notes, her eyes dancing with amusement. Between bites of seared scallops and truffle risotto, their conversation deepened. Elena shared how she'd fought her own battles in a male-dominated industry, her Cuban heritage often dismissed as exotic rather than celebrated. Maya opened up about her Brooklyn roots, her mother's Sunday gumbo, and the sting of Marcel's rejection. "You didn't let him stop you," Elena said, her voice soft but firm. "That's power." Maya met her gaze, feeling exposed yet safe. "I had to keep going. For every kid like me who's told they don't belong." Elena reached across the table, her hand brushing Maya's. The touch was brief but electric, a promise of something more. Maya's heart raced, but before she could speak, Marcel reappeared, his face strained. "Miss Washington," he said, his voice tight, "may I speak with you privately?" Maya glanced at Elena, who gave a subtle nod. "I'll be right back," Maya said, standing. She followed Marcel to a quiet corner near the kitchen, where he fidgeted, his arrogance replaced by unease. I didn't know who you'd become," he began. "I was wrong back then. I'd like to make it right." Maya crossed her arms. "You think an apology erases what you said? What you did?" Marcel's eyes darted away. "I'm offering you a place here. Head chef. Full control." The offer hung in the air, tempting yet hollow. Maya studied him, seeing the man who'd once crushed her dreams now scrambling to save his own. She smiled, cold and deliberate. "I don't need your kitchen, Marcel. I built my own." She turned and walked back to Elena, her heart lighter. The night wasn't about Marcel anymore. It was about her, her strength, her future, and the woman waiting at her table, whose smile felt like home. Back at the table, Elena leaned forward, her eyes glinting with curiosity. "So, what did the great chef Du Bois want?" Her tone was playful, but there was a sharpness to it, like she was ready to dissect the moment. Maya slid into her seat, her pulse still racing from the confrontation. "He offered me head chef," she said, her voice dry, "as if I'd trade my empire for his little kingdom." Elena laughed, a rich sound that warmed the sterile elegance of Lucille. "You've got him sweating. I like it." She paused, swirling her wine. "But you didn't come here just to gloat, did you?" Maya hesitated. Elena's perceptiveness was disarming. "I came to close a chapter," she admitted. "But now I'm not so sure what's next." Elena's gaze softened, and for a moment, the restaurant faded away. "Maybe it's not about closing anything," she said. "Maybe it's about opening something new." The words lingered, heavy with possibility. Maya felt a pull toward Elena, a mix of admiration and something deeper, something she hadn't let herself feel in years. But before she could respond, a server arrived with the next course, a deconstructed coq au vin that looked more like art than food. Maya and Elena exchanged a glance, both suppressing grins at the pretension. "Let's play critic," Elena said, picking up her fork. "You first." Maya took a bite, savoring the rich flavors. "Technically perfect," she said, "but it's missing soul. It's like Marcel's trying to prove something instead of feeding people." Elena nodded, scribbling in her notebook. "Exactly. It's all ego, no heart." She looked up, her eyes locking with Maya's. "You'd never cook like this." Maya's chest tightened. No one had ever seen her that way, not as the billionaire, but as the chef she'd always wanted to be. "I'd cook to make people feel something," she said softly, "like my mom's gumbo did for me." Elena's hand rested on the table, inches from Maya's. "I'd love to taste that someday," she said, her voice low, intimate. The air between them crackled, but the moment was interrupted by a commotion near the kitchen. A young black server, maybe 20, had dropped a tray of glassware. The crash echoed, and Marcel stormed out, his face red. "You incompetent," he began, but stopped when he saw Maya watching. The server, whose name tag read Jamal, looked mortified, his hands trembling as he scrambled to clean up. Maya's jaw tightened. She knew that look, the fear of being seen as less than in a place like this. Without a word, she stood and walked over, kneeling beside him. "Hey, it's just glass," she said gently, picking up a shard. "No one's perfect." Jamal glanced up, surprised. I'm sorry, ma'am." "Don't be," Maya said. "You're doing your best in a tough room." She shot Marcel a pointed look, and he turned away, muttering to a sous chef. Elena joined them, handing Jamal a napkin. "You okay, kid?" she asked, her tone warm but firm. Jamal nodded, his shoulders relaxing. "Yeah, thanks." As they returned to their table, Elena whispered, "Your trouble, Maya Washington. The good kind." Maya grinned, her heart lighter than it had been in years. The rest of the dinner passed in a blur of laughter and shared stories. Elena talked about her first review, a scathing takedown of a pretentious Miami bistro that earned her both enemies and fans. Maya shared how she'd coded the first version of Savor Soul herself, fueled by coffee and spite. Their connection grew, each story peeling back layers, revealing vulnerabilities neither had shown the world. As the final course, a lavender panna cotta, arrived, Maya noticed Marcel watching from the kitchen, his expression unreadable. She didn't care. Tonight wasn't about him. It was about the woman across from her, whose laugh made her forget the weight of her empire, if only for a moment. After dinner, Elena suggested a walk. They strolled through the West Village, the city alive with late-night energy. Neon signs buzzed, and the scent of pizza and street cart kebabs filled the air. Maya felt alive, unburdened, as if the city belonged to her in a way it never had before. They stopped at a quiet rooftop garden, a hidden gem Elena knew from her reporting days. Fairy lights twinkled above, and the skyline stretched out like a promise. Elena turned to Maya, her eyes searching. "You're not what I expected," she said. "You're real." Maya's breath caught. "So are you." Elena stepped closer, her hand brushing Maya's arm. "I don't usually do this," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I don't want this night to end." Maya's heart pounded. She'd built walls to protect herself, but Elena was slipping past them, effortlessly. "Then let's make it last," she said and leaned in. Their kiss was soft at first, tentative, then deepening with a hunger that surprised them both. The city hummed around them, but in that moment, it was just them. Two women who'd fought their way through a world that tried to define them, finding something true in each other. As they pulled back, Maya smiled, her voice steady. "Your trouble, Elena Rivera." Elena laughed, her eyes sparkling. "The good kind." The weeks that followed were a whirlwind. Maya and Elena fell into a rhythm, their lives intertwining like ingredients in a perfect dish. They met for coffee in Brooklyn, shared late-night tacos in Queens, and debated the merits of spicy ramen versus gumbo in a hole-in-the-wall spot in Harlem. Each moment felt like a discovery, as if they were mapping uncharted territory together. But the shadow of Lucille lingered. Maya couldn't shake the memory of Marcel's offer, or the server, Jamal, whose fear had mirrored her own a decade ago. She'd learned through a quick search that Jamal was a culinary student, working nights to pay tuition. His story hit close to home, and Maya couldn't let it go. One morning, over coffee at a cozy Williamsburg cafe, Maya told Elena about her plan. "I'm starting a scholarship through SaverSoul," she said, her eyes bright with purpose. "For kids like Jamal who deserve a shot but can't afford it. I want to fund their training, give them mentorship, the works." Elena set down her mug, her expression a mix of admiration and something deeper. "You're building a legacy, Maya, not just an empire." Maya shrugged, but her cheeks warmed. "I just want to make sure no one else gets turned away like I was." Elena reached for her hand, squeezing it. "You're changing the game, and I'm writing about it." True to her word, Elena's next article was a feature on SaverSoul's new initiative, titled "The Future of Food, Maya Washington's Revolution." It was a love letter to Maya's vision, laced with sharp commentary on the culinary world's elitism. The piece went viral, shared across platforms, with chefs and home cooks alike praising Maya's work. But it also stirred trouble. Marcel, predictably, was furious. He called Maya directly, his voice tight with barely concealed rage. "You're using my restaurant to prop up your little charity?" he snapped. "This is a smear campaign." Maya stood in her office, the Manhattan skyline behind her, and laughed. "Your restaurant? I own the deed, Marcel. And I'm not smearing you. You did that yourself 10 years ago. You'll regret this," he said, his tone icy. "I have influence. I can ruin you." "Good luck," Maya replied and hung up. She wasn't the scared 22-year-old anymore. But Marcel's threat lingered, a reminder that power came with enemies. That evening, Maya and Elena met at the rooftop garden again, their new sanctuary. The air was crisp, autumn settling over the city. Maya told Elena about Marcel's call, her voice steady but her hands fidgeting. "He's scared," Elena said, leaning against the railing. "You're a threat to everything he stands for." Maya sighed. "I just want to move forward, with the scholarship with us." Elena turned, her eyes soft. "Us is my favorite part." They kissed again, slower this time, the city fading into the background. But as they pulled apart, Elena's expression shifted. "There's something you should know," she said, her voice hesitant. "I'm working on a bigger story, about systemic racism in fine dining. Marcel's name keeps coming up." Maya's stomach tightened. You're going after him? Not just him, Elena said. The whole system. But he's a big part of it. I've got sources, former staff, servers like Jamal, who say he's been pushing out anyone who doesn't fit his vision. Maya nodded, processing. Do what you need to do. Just be careful. He's not above playing dirty. Elena smirked. Neither am I. The next day, Maya threw herself into the scholarship launch. She met with Jamal, offering him the first slot. His eyes widened, disbelief giving way to gratitude. I don't know how to thank you, he said, his voice thick. Just cook, Maya said, smiling. And don't let anyone tell you you don't belong. As the scholarship gained traction, Maya's empire grew. Save Her Soul expanded to new cities, and her team planned a global summit to connect chefs and vendors. But Marcel's threat gnawed at her. Late one night, she got a call from her PR team. A smear piece had dropped in a major food magazine, accusing Save Her Soul of exploiting small vendors for profit. The byline was anonymous, but Maya knew Marcel's fingerprints were all over it. She called Elena, her voice tight. He's coming for me. Then we fight back, Elena said. Together. The smear piece hit like a bomb. Social media erupted, with trolls and bots amplifying the accusations. Maya's inbox flooded with hate mail, and Save Her Soul's stock dipped. She sat in her office, staring at the headlines, her hands clenched. She'd faced backlash before, but this felt personal, a knife aimed at everything she'd built. Elena arrived, her laptop under her arm. I've got something, she said, her voice urgent. She pulled up a draft of her exposé, a meticulously researched piece detailing Marcel's history of discriminatory hiring. Former employees, including Jamal, had gone on record, describing a toxic culture at Lucille where non-white staff were relegated to invisible roles or pushed out entirely. This could end him, Elena said, but it's risky. He'll come for us both. Maya read the draft, her heart pounding. The evidence was damning: emails, recorded conversations, even a leaked memo where Marcel instructed his team to prioritize aesthetic hires. Publish it, she said finally. Let the truth do the work. Elena nodded, but her eyes held a flicker of worry. You sure? This could get ugly. Maya took her hand, grounding herself in Elena's warmth. I've been through ugly. I'm not afraid. The exposé dropped the next morning, published in a major outlet with Elena's byline. The backlash was immediate. Food blogs and ex-posts lit up, some praising Elena's courage, others accusing her of fabricating stories to boost her career. Marcel issued a statement, calling the allegations baseless and threatening legal action. But the damage was done. Reservations at Lucille plummeted, and sponsors began pulling out. Maya, meanwhile, fought her own battle. She held a press conference, addressing the smear piece head-on. Standing before a sea of cameras, she spoke with calm authority. Save Her Soul exists to lift up the voices the culinary world ignores, she said. I won't let lies stop us. Not now, not ever. The room erupted in applause, and the tide began to turn. Vendors rallied behind her, sharing stories of how Save Her Soul had transformed their lives. The scholarship program gained national attention, with applications flooding in. Maya felt a flicker of hope, but the war wasn't over. That night, she and Elena met at a dive bar in the East Village, seeking refuge from the chaos. Over cheap beer and greasy fries, they strategized. Marcel's desperate, Elena said. He'll try something bigger. She was right. 2 days later, a lawsuit landed on Maya's desk. Marcel was suing Save Her Soul for defamation, claiming her ownership of Lucille's building was a conflict of interest. The claim was flimsy, but the legal fees would drain resources. Maya's team urged her to settle, but she refused. He doesn't get to win, she said. Elena, meanwhile, faced her own fallout. Her editor warned her that powerful chefs were circling, threatening to blacklist her from the industry. But Elena was unshaken. "I've got your back," she told Maya. "Always." Their relationship deepened through the storm. Late nights became their sanctuary, whether cooking together in Maya's penthouse or dancing to old salsa records in Elena's cramped apartment. Each moment was a reminder of what they were fighting for. Not just justice, but a future where they could be themselves unapologetically. One evening, as they lay tangled in sheets, Elena traced circles on Maya's arm. "What happens when this is over?" she asked. "When the lawsuits and headlines fade?" Maya turned to her, her heart full. "We keep building. Together." Elena smiled, pulling her close. "I like the sound of that." But the fight wasn't over. A week later, Jamal called Maya in a panic. Marcel had fired him, citing performance issues. It was retaliation, plain and simple. Maya's blood boiled. She'd had enough. Maya didn't hesitate. She called a meeting with her legal team and Save Her Soul's board. "We're evicting Lucille," she said, her voice steel. "I own the building. Marcel's lease is up in a month. He's out." Her team hesitated, citing bad optics, but Maya was done playing nice. "He's had 10 years to change," she said. "He chose this." The eviction notice was served the next day. Marcel's response was a public meltdown. An ex-post calling Maya a vindictive opportunist who'd bought her way to power. The post backfired spectacularly, with thousands rallying behind Maya, sharing their own stories of rejection and resilience. Save Her Soul became a movement, a symbol of defiance against gatekeepers like Marcel. As the eviction loomed, Maya focused on what mattered. She expanded the scholarship, personally mentoring Jamal and other recipients. She and Elena planned a pop-up event at the Save Her Soul Summit, showcasing dishes from scholarship students and small vendors. The event was a hit, with lines stretching around the block and critics raving. Elena's live coverage, posted across platforms, captured the joy and diversity of the night, a stark contrast to Lucille's sterile exclusivity. On the final day of Marcel's lease, Maya visited Lucille one last time. The dining room was empty, the chandeliers dim. Marcel stood at the bar, his shoulders slumped. For a moment, Maya felt a pang of pity. Then she remembered his words from a decade ago, "You're kind," and the pity vanished. "You did this to yourself," she said quietly. "You could have built something real, but you chose hate." Marcel didn't respond. He just stared at the empty tables, his empire crumbling. Maya walked out, the door closing behind her like a final note. Outside, Elena waited, her smile a beacon. They walked to the rooftop garden, their hands intertwined. The city sparkled below, alive with possibility. "You did it," Elena said, pulling Maya close. "You changed everything." "We changed it," Maya corrected, her voice soft. Together, they kissed under the fairy lights, the world theirs for the taking. Maya's journey had begun with rejection, but it ended with love, not just for Elena, but for the community she'd built, the dreams she'd nurtured, and the future she'd fought for. She wasn't just a billionaire or a chef. She was Maya Washington, unstoppable, and she was home.